Welcome to the Wife Stories YouTube channel. New video every day, and don't forget to subscribe. Here we go.
Silence. A slow, steady thrum of vibration breaks it, like a phone buzzing against a table in the middle of the night. It goes on for a few seconds, then stops. The darkness in my bedroom feels thick, and for a heartbeat, I think I can hear the echo of my own blood rushing. I pick up the phone but see no messages, just my reflection in the black screen. A deeper slush eye. This isn't the story I ever imagined telling about my marriage, or my life for that matter. But I need you to hear it the way I lived it. It's not pretty. It's not gentle or sweet. It's jagged and raw. And I offer no apologies for that, because the man I was, a proud husband, an upstanding professional, a believer in honesty, died somewhere along the way. Now I'm someone else, someone looking in from the outside, empty-eyed and numb, still moving my mouth, still breathing, but feeling like I've already crossed my own funeral threshold. I can't remember the exact moment I realized my wife was slipping away from me. Maybe it was a glance, a shift in her eyes when I said something at dinner, or maybe it was when she stopped calling me at work to say she missed me. I used to think these things were normal, that after years of living together, the flame fades, life steps in, routine sets the pace. But a man who invests money for a living learns a thing or two about patterns, about reading signs. And what I saw in Amanda had that shape of inevitability. She was drifting into some private dream, beyond my reach. I thought I could live with it, or fix it, or figure it out. But then I caught her in a lie, just a small one. She told me she had dinner with an old friend. Later, that friend's social media told a different story. A little contradiction that shouldn't have mattered. But it ate at me. I couldn't let it go. And the more I dug, the more suspicious I became of everything she said or did. There was a new softness in her smile that I couldn't claim, a certain careful tension when her phone buzzed after midnight. She would hold it to her chest and say, "It's just a spam call," or "wrong number." I told myself I was imagining things, that a man like me, who'd sacrificed so much to build a firm, to build a steady life, wouldn't be undone by a flicker of doubt. But that's exactly what happened. In the mornings, I'd see her across the breakfast table, hair tucked behind her ear, reading emails on her laptop, sipping coffee. I'd ask some harmless question. "Any big meetings at work today?" She'd answer, but it felt like a shell, an echo. Something was missing between us, something intangible. I started losing sleep. My old back pain got worse. I'd go on evening runs and try to sweat out the anxiety, but it just thrummed stronger. Late at night, I'd find myself staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation we ever had, searching for the exact moment it all cracked. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't locate the fracture line. She still spoke kindly, still lay beside me in bed. But there was a distance in her gaze. Something behind her eyes was gone, or maybe it was me who had gone. Then I made a decision. A desperate, shameful, terrifying decision. To hire a man. Not an ordinary private investigator. Oh no, that would be too mundane. I hired someone to test her, to see if she'd crossed the line. If she was truly mine, or if she was only living under my roof, biding her time until someone, more exciting came along. His name was Ed. My friend in college recommended him, an under-the-table specialist, a smooth talker who apparently had a knack for seduction and entrapment. It disgusted me even thinking about it, but I gave in. I told Ed exactly what I wanted. Charm her. Flirt with her. Get close. If she bites, if she's willing to cheat, I need to know. He smirked like I told him a dirty secret. He named a price, $1,000 up front, $2,000 more if it got physical. I wrote the check with cold, mechanical precision. It felt like signing a contract with the devil, but I kept telling myself I needed the truth at any cost. He started slowly, texting her, approaching her at lunch spots, finding ways to bump into her at the coffee shop near her office. I saw glimpses of these interactions through the chat logs he sent me. My stomach twisted when I realized how easily she bantered with him. She was bright, witty. She made little jokes. She engaged. He wasn't pushing too hard. He was subtle, dropping compliments, flowers, invitations to dinner. And she was responding. Cautious, yes, but she was responding. I remember nights when I'd come home and see Amanda's eyes sparkling in a way they hadn't in months. She'd mention she had a meeting at some bistro after work, or that an old contact wanted to discuss a design campaign. I'd nod, numb, wanting to scream. I know who it is. I know what you're doing. But the words stuck in my throat like broken glass. I told myself it was part of the plan. That I had to let it play out to see if she'd actually go through with it. If she'd betray me. And then it happened. It was a Wednesday. I came home a little earlier, hoping to talk with her, but she wasn't there. No note, just a text that said she'd be late. My phone buzzed. A notification from Ed. Video chat, it read. I opened it. At first, all I saw was the reflection of her living room. Then he turned the camera. Amanda was there, standing at a slight distance. She was in a robe, her hair damp, as if she just showered. I'll never forget the moment she reached out and ran her hand along his chest, playing with his shirt collar. She didn't see the phone in his hand. She was looking at him, leaning in. My heart hammered in my ribs. And then they kissed. Softly, tentatively, at first. His camera shook as her hand slid over him, and my own eyes blurred with rage, pain, a swirl of irreconcilable emotion. I heard her voice. Quiet, breathy. We shouldn't. Not here. He whispered something. Then the camera angle shifted awkwardly, and I saw her face, caught in half-light. She was looking at him like a woman looks at someone who makes her feel alive. Her lips parted in a silent invitation. They kissed again, deeper this time. I wanted to tear my phone apart, but I kept watching, paralyzed in my own twisted experiment. Her robe slipped open a fraction, revealing more of her body than any other man should ever see. She pressed against him, her breath quickening. And me. I stood there in my own living room, phone in hand, a cinder block in my chest. I felt like I was out of my body, watching someone else's wife. Yet it was Amanda, the woman I'd shared a bed with for years, the woman I thought I knew inside and out. I caught a glimpse of her bare shoulder, the soft curve of her collarbone. The camera angle wobbled again, and I saw him kiss her neck, his hand sliding down her side. Her robe parted at the thigh. She let out a small moan. Then she must have noticed the phone was streaming because suddenly her hand shot up, half laughing, half shocked, pushing the camera away. The video ended abruptly, leaving me in a black silence that felt like a coffin slamming shut. That was the last I saw alive. But before the feed cut out, I heard her say, "You're crazy. We can't. I have to. Maybe we should." And then it was gone. My mind filled in the rest, or maybe it was the real footage Ed had forwarded me later. She was undone, parted from me, locked in that moment with another man in my own space. That day, a piece of me died. I couldn't face her. For 3 days, I said almost nothing. She acted normal, or tried to. But I could see her guilt. She avoided my gaze. She came home a bit later than usual. We'd talk about the weather, about groceries, about absolutely nothing meaningful. I didn't sleep, didn't eat properly. My body felt numb, but my mind was a raging inferno. Finally, I texted Ed. I told him to come over. No drama, no anger, just the final step. I had a plan. He arrived in the evening. Amanda was out at work. I led him into my office. 4 walls lined with books I never had time to read anymore. He tried to crack some joke, as if we were old buddies. "I guess you got what you wanted, right?" he said, glancing at the scattered files on my desk. I could smell the cologne on him. Something musky, with a bite. My anger flared, but I held it tight. "Shut up," I told him. "I'm not interested in small talk." He raised his eyebrows. "Then what are you interested in?" "You're going to fix this for me." I said, my voice level, even though I felt like I could snap his neck. She can't know I was behind it. You'll take the blame, say it was all your idea, your obsession, that you manipulated her, wanted her. He laughed, but it was a nervous sound. And why the hell would I do that? My lips twitched into a grin. I hated him. God, I hated him. But I needed him to see I wasn't bluffing. So I opened my laptop, played a short clip. It was the video call. Him kissing her partially undressed, his voice whispering something that sounded disturbingly close to coercion, though I knew it was a game. The camera angle made it look like a predator cornering prey. It was damning if you didn't know the context. And in our legal system, context can be the difference between freedom and a prison cell. You see, I said quietly, this doesn't look consensual. It looks ugly. I have a detective friend. He's been itching for a high-profile harassment case. You get the picture. The cops would tear you to pieces. He stiffened. She wanted it, he growled. You know that. I shrugged. I'm not the one who'll have to explain it. It'll be your word against the video, and me, the poor husband who was so clueless all along. For a moment, he stared at me, his face pale. Then he asked the obvious question. What do you want, exactly? I already told you. You confess everything to her. Say you set it up, that I had no part in it. She has to believe it was your obsession. You wanted her for yourself. End of story. After that, you disappear. You don't talk to her. You don't talk to anyone. You leave me out of this. If you do that, I'll keep the video to myself. No charges, no cops. He rubbed his mouth. You realize she'll hate me. I lifted one shoulder. Better than jail, isn't it? A long silence draped over us. I felt my heart pounding, but outwardly I was calm. This was the price of vengeance. I was paying with my own soul, but it was the only currency I had left. Finally, he nodded. All right. I'll say what you want. I'll take the blame. But I'm done after that. My voice was low. Yes, you'll be done. When Amanda came home that night, I told her we needed to talk. She looked at me with something like fear in her eyes. I said I'd invited a guest who had something important to say. She must have sensed the tension, but she followed me into the living room. Ed was there, standing stiffly by the fireplace. My gaze flicked between them, and for a second I saw an entire drama play out in their eyes. Guilt, regret, maybe leftover traces of that magnetic attraction that had led them to do what they did. Ed cleared his throat. Amanda, I need to tell you something. She set her purse down carefully, as though delaying the moment. What's going on? He swallowed. It was me. I've had feelings for you for a while. I set this all up. The meetings, the seduction. I wanted you. I convinced you it was harmless, but I was lying to you from the start. She stared at him. You manipulated me. She glanced at me, confusion shading her features. I said nothing, letting him handle it. His voice quivered. I'm sorry. John had no idea. I approached him about a business proposal, got close to you behind his back. I can't explain why. I just wanted you. Amanda's lip trembled. That can't be true, she whispered. You? Ed forced a shrug, eyes lowered. I messed up. The silence that followed felt like a vise around my chest. She turned to me. John, is this true? Did you know anything? I exhaled, letting my face remain impassive. I only found out recently. Believe me, I'm as shocked as you are. She looked between us, tears gathering in her eyes. But the gifts and the dinners, you said it would be good for my marketing contacts. You said. Her voice cracked. Ed rubbed his neck. I used you, Amanda. I saw how bored you were, how unfulfilled. And I guess I took advantage. I never planned for it to get so out of hand. She stood there, shaking, tears sliding down her cheeks. I felt nothing but a dull echo in my bones, This was the moment I had worked for, schemed for, but it tasted like ash. She turned on him in a rush of sobs, hitting his chest with her fists. How could you do that? You lied to me, made me think. He tried to shield himself, stammering apologies. I stood watching, letting it unfold. My heart hammered, but the rest of me was cold. After a few seconds, she stopped, stepping back, pressing her hands to her face. Then she looked at me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I've been so distant from you, so cold. I thought I needed something, some spark in my life. But I never meant to betray you. My jaw clenched. You betrayed me the moment you let him into our home. The moment you crossed that line. She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Ed took a step toward her, but I blocked him with a stiff arm. That's enough. Get out. He opened his mouth, but I stared him down. He finally turned, hurried to the door, and left without another word. Amanda crumpled into a chair, face buried in her hands. I stood in the doorway, letting the smell of tragedy hang in the air. There was no anger left to fling at her, no pity left to offer. I just watched. Eventually, I told her, we'll figure out what to do. But not tonight. She sobbed harder. I felt my fists tighten, because even in her despair, I couldn't find it in myself to comfort her. This was the cost of what she'd done, and what I'd orchestrated. She had no idea I'd made it happen. She had no clue that I had spent thousands of dollars to open the door for her to cheat, and that she'd walked right through it. I turned away, left her there, and slipped into the hallway. My phone felt heavy in my pocket. The video was still there, the evidence. I'd already turned a copy over to my detective friend, making sure Ed would remain in check. The next few days were a living funeral. Amanda wept quietly, trying to apologize, trying to regain my trust. She repeated the same phrases. I never meant to go that far. I was lonely. I didn't know you still cared. My mind could barely process her words. I'd stand by the window, looking out at the well-groomed lawn, recalling all the hours I'd spent trying to earn enough for this house for her. And then I'd replay the vision of her parted robe, her parted lips against Ed's. I guess I became a ghost in my own home. At work, I was present, but not truly there. Clients would talk about investments, returns, strategic growth. I'd nod, sign papers, check the numbers, but inside, everything was hollow. I felt an occasional pang of triumph that my plan had succeeded. It was out of the picture, pinned with the blame. Amanda believed me the victim. But it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like a slow poison. Days later, the final confrontation happened. Amanda cornered me in the kitchen late one evening. Her eyes were red, but her posture was stiff, like she'd mustered enough courage to demand answers. John, she began, I want you to tell me the truth, what you really knew. I paused, setting a glass of water on the counter. My reflection in the glass looked older, more tired than I remembered. I already told you, I said evenly. I just found out. She stepped closer, voice trembling. You don't look like a man who just found out. You look like a man who's known for a while. A man who set a trap. My stomach tightened. Why would I do that? She swallowed. Because you wanted proof that I'd betray you. And you got it. I studied her face. Her cheeks were hollow, the shadows under her eyes pronounced. My silence probably told her more than I intended. She whispered, You used to say we could fix anything if we were just honest. You remember that? You said it after my grandma died, that love and honesty can pull us out of anything. You always repeated it. My lips curled bitterly. How far we've come from that, huh? She touched my arm, and I almost flinched. I need you to tell me, did you set me up? A wave of unidentifiable rage rose in me. I thought of the friend who'd recommended Ed, the envelope of cash, the months of suspicion. I thought of the broken shell of trust between us. If I told her yes, then I'd be the villain in her eyes forever. If I told her no, I'd remain the wounded party, but I'd be lying to her face. I took too long to respond, and in that silence, she found her answer. She recoiled, tears sliding down again. "I see," she said softly. "God, I see it all now." She turned to walk away, but something in me snapped. I grabbed her by the arm, not violently, but firmly. She winced, more in emotional pain than physical. "You have no idea what it felt like," I growled, the words trembling with suppressed fury. "I was dying inside every single day, thinking you were gone from me. I had to know. And the moment I suspected, the moment I saw how you came alive for him, I realized we were done. But I couldn't just let it happen. I had to see if you'd truly betray me. And you did." She was crying openly. "I was lonely," she said. "You never talked to me, John. You were always behind your desk, checking your phone, traveling for business. I needed you, but you weren't there." That cut me deeper than I expected. I let go of her arm, stepping back. I let out a hollow laugh. "So you found someone who gave you the attention I didn't. Even if it was staged, orchestrated, you still wanted it." She stared at me, eyes bright with tears. "If that's what you believe, there's nothing left to say." She left the kitchen. I heard her footsteps vanish up the stairs. In the days that followed, we lived like polite strangers. She slept in the guest room. I stuck to my routines, or what was left of them. I could tell she wanted to salvage something, but I was too bruised, too cold, and she was too ashamed. Occasionally, we'd meet in the hallway, exchange a few words about bills, errands, or groceries. But it was as if the core of us had been gutted. One morning, I received a call from my detective friend. He said he had the recorded conversation, the video, everything labeled and archived. "If you ever want to press charges, let me know," he said cheerfully, as if we were discussing a casual matter. I told him I had no plans to follow up. He didn't care. He had other cases. That's when I realized how deeply I'd sunk. I'd weaponized the law itself. It gave me a vicious sense of satisfaction, and at the same time, a nauseating guilt. My phone felt like a loaded gun in my hand. Soon after, I confronted Ed one last time. We met on a quiet street near a dilapidated diner. I'd summoned him with a text. "We're not done." He showed up, eyes darting nervously. "What now?" he asked, shoulders rigid. I said everything you wanted me to say. I stared at him, recalling the images of him and Amanda kissing. My pulse hammered. I wanted to punch him, to spill his blood on the pavement. But I held back. "You're going to keep your mouth shut and never show your face to her again." He grimaced. "I already promised you that. You think I'm stupid enough to go near her again after all this?" I studied him, the handsome face that seduced my wife, the quick smile that had coaxed her to drop her guard. He looked tired, cornered, a shadow of the cocky man he'd been. "That video," I murmured, "the one that basically implicates you in forcing her, it's still with me. You ever cross me, and you'll wish you never got involved." He shook his head. "You're a cold bastard, you know that." I felt a faint, mirthless smile stretch my lips. "I didn't used to be." He swallowed, looked away. "We done. We're done." I watched him walk off, shoulders hunched, a man who thought he had the world in his pocket, but had discovered just how quickly it could turn. I felt no triumph, only emptiness. In the days that followed, Amanda's sorrow took on a quiet despair. She was apologetic, kept saying she wanted to go to counseling, that we could try to heal. But how do you heal a marriage built on illusions? How do you heal from a betrayal you orchestrated yourself? One evening, she stood outside my office. I heard her footsteps pause. "John," she said, voice trembling. I lifted my head from the paperwork. "Yes." She entered timidly. Her hair was down, framing her tear-stained face. I want to make it right," she whispered. "But I can't do it alone. Will you come with me to therapy?" Therapy. The word flared my anger again. Because it implied we were both at fault, that the blame was shared. Part of me wanted to scream that it was all her fault. Part of me knew that was a lie. I stared at the documents on my desk, meaningless financial data that used to be so important. Then I looked at her and thought of that last conversation in the kitchen. "I don't know," I said, my voice hollow. "I'm not sure we can fix this." She pressed her lips together. "If you're not ready, I understand. But I love you." That final phrase, "I love you," hit me like a physical blow. She'd said it so many times over the years. I used to feel warmth in it. Now, it tasted false. How could she love me if she gave herself so quickly to Ed? My chest burned, but not with passion, only with bitterness. I nodded stiffly. "I'll think about it." She left, and the house fell silent again. I realized that I had everything I claimed to want. I'd forced Aid to vanish, guaranteed Amanda's guilt was no longer hidden from me, and even turned her sorrow into some grotesque apology dance. And yet inside, I felt more alone than ever. Days turned into weeks. We continued living under the same roof, but it felt as though a thick, invisible wall separated us. She tried small gestures, cooking my favorite meal, turning off her phone to talk to me in the evenings. I sometimes tried to respond, or at least pretend. But every time I looked into her eyes, I saw that moment of betrayal replaying, and I tasted the poison of my own plan. One night, I couldn't sleep. I paced downstairs, remembering how things were when we first moved here. Her joy, her excitement at decorating the living room, picking curtains, painting the walls. We had shared a laugh when the paint color turned out slightly different than we expected. "It's not perfect," she said, "but it's ours." That was years ago, back when we believed in each other. I ended up in the living room, near the couch where I'd found her texting Ned late at night. The air felt thick with ghosts. My phone was in my hand. My detective friend's contact was pinned to the top. The video was still on my device, the ultimate weapon. I couldn't bring myself to watch it again, but the memory was enough. The next morning, I caught a glimpse of Amanda sitting in the backyard. She was sipping coffee, gazing at the hedge we planted together, a row of small shrubs that had grown tall and lush over the years. She looked so sad, so drained. For a moment, I remembered the young woman I married, the way she'd smile at me across a crowded room in college, making me feel like I was the only man in the world. I walked outside, sat down on the bench next to her. She looked up, eyes red. She tried to form a smile, but it died on her lips. "It's a nice morning," she said quietly. "Remember how we used to sit here on Saturdays?" I gave a small nod, scanning the yard. "Yeah. We'd drink coffee and argue if we should mow the lawn first or go grocery shopping." She let out a ghost of a laugh. "You always insisted on mowing first." Silence fell again. We were two strangers with shared memories. I said, "I keep wondering if we can go back to how it was." She swallowed. "I'd give anything for that." We both stared at the sky. It was a vivid blue, the sun creeping over the fence line. I thought about how many more days we'd waste living in separate rooms, locked in guilt and anger. Finally, I sighed. "I'll go to therapy with you." Her eyes flicked to me, hopeful tears forming again. "Really?" I shrugged. "We built a life together. If there's a chance to salvage any of it." I trailed off, because I had no illusions that we'd snap back to normal. But at least it was a step. Her tears spilled over, and she tried to speak, but only managed a trembling smile. We sat there for a while, letting the morning drift around us. The therapy session started awkwardly. I was quiet at first, letting Amanda speak about her feelings, the loneliness she felt, how she believed I'd stopped caring about her desires, how Ed's attention seemed like a lifeline. She had no idea that I'd orchestrated it. But with each session, I found it harder to maintain that lie. The counselor kept pressing. "John, do you feel betrayed?" I wanted to shout, yes, but also, I betrayed her trust in a different way. I never said it. I couldn't. I convinced myself the truth would only tear us apart further, that it would accomplish nothing good. So I lied through my teeth. Over the following weeks, Amanda tried her best to show me she was earnest. She canceled all social events that weren't strictly work-related. She gave me full access to her phone. She started making time for me. Sometimes it felt genuine. Sometimes it felt forced. I imagine she felt the same about me. But the memory of that day, her robe sliding off, the kiss, haunted my dreams. And no matter how many times she apologized, no matter how many therapy sessions we had, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were patching a sinking ship with duct tape. We reached a point where the counselor asked us to renew our vows privately, to say out loud what we cherished about each other. Amanda said she cherished my dedication, my stability, the sense of safety I once gave her. I said I cherished her creativity, her warmth, the way she used to light up a room. We both cried a bit afterward. For a moment, I believed we might have a chance. But that same evening, I got a text from my detective friend. Just confirming, you still want me to hang on to the evidence, right? A pit opened in my stomach. I typed back, keep it safe. I realized that I was living a double existence. A man trying to rebuild a marriage, and a man who still held the ultimate blackmail card. A man who had destroyed trust in ways he couldn't fully admit. One night, Amanda came into our bedroom. Yes, we'd started sharing it again. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, head in my hands. She slipped behind me, resting a gentle hand on my shoulder. John, she whispered, I know I hurt you. I know you still don't trust me. But I need you to know that I am yours. That I want to be with you. I felt her breath on my neck, the warmth of her body. A swirl of memory came back. The times we made love in this very room. The times we laughed until midnight about silly jokes. And, unbidden, a flash of that video with Ed. I inhaled sharply. She leaned in, brushed her lips against my cheek. Can we try to reconnect? My throat felt tight. This was my wife. The woman I promised to love until death. And I realized how starved I was for her affection, how lonely I'd been, even before the betrayal. I turned to face her. She was wearing a loose t-shirt and shorts, her eyes searching mine. I cupped her face, feeling the softness of her skin. She closed her eyes, and I saw a tear slip out. I pressed my lips to hers, and her breath hitched. Slowly, carefully, we undressed each other. She moved onto me with trembling tenderness, as if she feared I'd reject her. For a moment, I lost myself in that familiar warmth, the shape of her body, the subtle hush of her sigh as I touched her. We kissed, letting our hands roam over skin that once belonged only to us. It felt bittersweet. There was desire. Yes, my body responded to her in that primal, urgent way. But beneath it all lurked the knowledge that we were dancing on the ruins of something shattered. Our bodies found that old rhythm, her arms wrapping around my neck, my hands bracing her hips. We gasped, moaned softly, and for seconds at a time, I could almost forget. But each time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes of that Zoom call, the way she moaned for him. When we finally collapsed together, hearts pounding, she rested her forehead against mine. I love you, she whispered again, her voice thick with tears. I kissed her damp cheek, swallowing the bitter taste in my throat. I love you too, I said, not sure if it was true or if I was just comforting a ghost. Afterward, in the stillness of the night, I stared at the ceiling while she slept, curled against me. I realized I'd never fully trust her again, and she'd never fully know how deeply I'd orchestrated her fall from grace. We were bound by a shared guilt that no vow could erase. Weeks bowled into months. We continued therapy, slowly re-establishing a semblance of normalcy. She changed jobs, moving to a different company in marketing, perhaps to start fresh, away from the memories. I pretended to be supportive. We had dinners together, watched old movies, sometimes even laughed. But a wedge remained between us. I'd get random texts from Ed, thinly veiled insults or pleas. Sometimes he'd say, I can't believe you did me like that. Other times, can we settle something? I need money. I ignored them, passing them to my detective friend, who told me not to worry. He won't do anything, he said. He knows we got him cornered. One day, though, Amanda found me looking at my phone while I read one of Ed's messages. Her face paled. "Who is that?" she asked, her voice tight. I locked the phone, slid it into my pocket. "No one important." "Why are you still talking to him?" she demanded, fear creeping into her tone. I forced a casual shrug. "I'm not. He just keeps sending stuff." She stared at me for a moment, eyes searching. "Why won't you show me?" Her direct question made my heart lurch. I realized that, no matter how many times we said we were mending, we were still in the shadows. We hadn't truly emerged, and maybe we never would. We drifted like this for another few weeks, wearing our civility like armor. Our therapy sessions turned into half-truth confessions, more aimed at preventing new wounds than healing the old ones. I found myself stifling the urge to shout, "This marriage is a charade." She tried to appear strong, but I could see her heartbreak in every forced smile. And then, one sweltering afternoon, the final blow came. My detective friend informed me that Ed had given a statement to the police about someone who hired him to entrap a woman. He didn't mention names, but the detective thought he was fishing for immunity or a payout. My chest went cold. If Ed had proof I'd orchestrated anything, it could explode in my face. I confronted him again. This time, I found him in a cheap motel he'd been hiding in. The place smelled of stale cigarettes and sour beer. He looked thinner, more desperate. "You trying to blackmail me now?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. He huffed a humorless laugh. "Blackmail you? You already blackmailed me. I'm just trying to survive." I almost lost control, grabbing the collar of his shirt and shoving him against the peeling wall. "Don't you dare ruin me," I said through gritted teeth. "You've done enough." He shoved me back, eyes wild. "Don't act like you're an innocent victim here. You paid me to seduce your wife. Man, you put us both in that situation. And then you used your detective friend to brand me a predator. That was your choice." I spat. "You accepted the money. You could have walked away." "Bullshit," he said. "You came to me exactly because I wouldn't walk away from easy cash." We stood there, breathing hard. I realized how vile this entire affair was. Two men consumed by greed, lust, and vengeance. I let go of him, took a step back. "I need your word," I said hoarsely, "that you'll never mention my name to the police. I can't lose everything over this." He wiped a trickle of blood from where I pressed him too hard against the corner of a broken lampshade. "Fine," he muttered. "But I need money. Enough to leave this place, get a fresh start somewhere else." My stomach churned. I knew that if I didn't comply, he might well sell his story to some tabloid or leak it. It would tear my reputation apart. "Okay," I said, voice dead. "How much?" We settled on a figure that stung but wouldn't ruin me. He smirked, a hollow version of his old grin. "Wire it to my account." I turned to leave, pausing at the threshold. "I want you gone by the end of the week." "Don't worry," he said. "I'm done with this rotten town." I left, sickened by the final cost of my revenge. I paid him off the next day. My detective friend didn't protest, said it was better this way to keep Ed quiet. Amanda saw the wire transfer in the bank statement. She had partial access to our finances. She confronted me that evening. "Why did you send thousands of dollars to that scum?" My hand shook. I couldn't look her in the eye. "He threatened me," I said flatly. "He said he'd come after us if I didn't pay." Her face contorted in anger and heartbreak. "Why would he threaten you? If you're just a victim, like me." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. She waited, tears glistening again, then shook her head bitterly. "I'm tired of secrets, John. You can't keep lying to me and expect me to act like your devoted wife." The old fury flared inside me. "You're tired of secrets. You were the one who gave in to him in our own home." She took a shaky breath. "I know, and I'm ashamed of that. But you—" She stopped, choking on her words. "I can't do this anymore." Something in her expression told me that whatever fragile thread of reconciliation we'd been clinging to was about to snap. She took off her wedding ring, set it on the kitchen counter. A simple, final gesture. "I'm going to stay at a friend's house for now," she said quietly. "I'll pick up my things tomorrow." I felt a wave of panic, but it was muted by exhaustion. We locked eyes for a moment, just a flash of the love that used to be there. Then she turned and walked out the door, leaving me alone in the hush of the house we built. I stared at that ring, the symbol of a promise we both broke. My phone buzzed again, but I ignored it. For the first time in months, I recognized the scope of my own damnation. I'd set out to prove she wasn't faithful. I'd succeeded, but the cost was my own soul. And now my marriage was in cinders. In the end, I just stood in the doorway, the ring in my palm, listening to the echo of her car engine fade into the night. My entire life's illusion smelled like burning plastic. I don't know if we'll ever speak again. Maybe we'll attempt legal separation or a divorce with minimal drama. Maybe in time, we'll sit down like mature adults and confess the entire truth. But tonight, as I stand here in the emptiness of this house, I only know one thing for sure. When you try to test someone's loyalty by setting a trap, you can't act surprised when the trap catches you too. Because I was the real author of this disaster. I sealed my fate the moment I reached for my wallet to hire a man to seduce my wife. And now, all I have left is the memory of her bare shoulder, her parted lips, and the knowledge that I orchestrated my own heartbreak, fueling it with $1,000 here, $2,000 there, until the final price was my entire life. That's all I've got. The house is silent. The phone is silent. My heart is silent. And in that silence, I only hear the faint echo of the man I used to be.